what's going on in the world. We have political unrest, we have nations at war, we're coming out of a pandemic, there's corruption in the government. And then, there's this spiritual consciousness awakening. People are talking about the planets shifting and splitting. And then there may be aliens, right? You see Skinwalker Ranch, and meanwhile, I'm trying to go, how do I become a good dad? What does it mean to be a good leader? How do I pay rent?
And one of the things that's helped us survive and prevail and rise up is choosing how we invest our time, who we invest our time with, and what we focus on. You know what I'm saying? Like if I focus all of the mistakes that I've made, which, man, or all of the, problems of the world or whatever, I would literally go crazy.
We sat down, pressed record, and just started talking. No script, no plan, just real conversations. And that's where the magic happened. Welcome to the first ever episode of Crack the Code, now remastered as part of the Evolving Mindsets podcast. When we first launched this, we had no idea where it would take us. What started as an experiment between friends quickly grew into something deeper, conversations about self-discovery, resilience, and the mindsets that shape our lives. Now we're bringing it all together under a brand new name and a clearer mission. So whether you've been with us from the beginning, or you're just now discovering us, we're glad you're here. This is where it all started, episode 1 of what has now become the Evolving Mindsets podcast.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Crack the Code podcast. I'm Clint Baggett, your host. And here with me, I have one of my best friends, longtime friends, Shane Russell, a.k.a. the Hood Hippie. I've known Shane for, going on 20 years we've known each other? Just getting through life. And, Shane has some incredible stories. I'm really happy that he's been available to join me in this journey. We want to talk about, everybody's journey, right? All of us are going through journeys of self-discovery, leadership, creativity, exploration of life. And so, we frequently have conversations on these topics. And a lot of times, we'll be on calls with multiple people. And it's always come up that we should just put this on a podcast that people could benefit from it. So we said, let's take the plunge. Let's do that. Let's put it on the podcast. And so, we want to bring that color and life for everybody to hear. So, Shane, if you want to say a few words and introduce yourself a bit, and we'll kind of get into it after that.
Yeah, so I met Clint about 20 years ago. He was my boss and came into a situation in a company that was kind of a debacle. And I don't know, we were kind of rogue and running ourselves, and Clint came in and just brought a real positive force into our environment and really changed the culture and changed everybody in the culture and really established something that many of us have carried with us, not only from that moment in our careers, but just also in our personal lives. Understanding that we all have immense value. We have gifts and powers, and there's nobody can win by themselves. It takes a team. The team synergy is real, and Clint gave us the opportunity to be who we are, to bring our best to the table, and to and get everybody pulling in the same direction. And we earned our stripes together, and we had immense success. And many people that that have been with us on this journey have taken these principles and really have done great things in their career and in their personal lives and their life work. And just establishing meaning and purpose and mission, and inspiring people. And it's been contagious. And so I was raised right, and I had a very very dynamic life, and I've gone down some rabbit holes. I've had troubles with addiction and all kind of stuff, but
Well, that's real,
somehow.
man. That's real life. That's, that's what everybody's actually going through. To your point, and thank you for the kind words, but like, you know, we've all got something to bring to the table. And what I noticed is really kind of wild and crazy to me is that most of us, we see people who have done really successful things, right? And we separate ourselves from them. We see them on TV, we see them on the news, politicians or movie stars or actors or music, And what I love about what has happened with like the YouTube content creators and and social media. I mean, I know there's good and bad in all of it, but like it's brought that closer because now the celebrities we see are a little bit closer to us. So like, you take someone like Joe Rogan, Joe Rogan was on the UFC. He's kind of famous. He's in that celebrity face. Even though he's doing a podcast, it still feels separate. But, to your point, what I realized is that all of those people are people just like us, right? You know what I mean? And when we start to see each other in that way and see ourselves in that way, we can bring our best, forward. And I think, when you and I were talking about starting this podcast, we talked about it for, a couple years. What do we want to do? We made the agreement, right? And if hit me, tell me if I'm wrong here, but like that what we wanted to do was keep that going forward, right? Because we experienced that kind of being seen and being empowered by a community of your coworkers. We've seen that in action in the teams that we were on, and we've watched it iterate, over the years through our work lives, our professional lives, and all this kind of stuff. And everywhere that we kind of bring in that culture of INDIVISION, right? That culture of we're all here for a purpose, and we all have something equally amazing to bring to the game, although it might be specifically different what we bring. We wanted to remind people that, let them know that it doesn't matter where you're at or who you are, whether you're listening to this in your car or watching this on YouTube and whatever role you have, right? You have something incredible to deliver. And we want to just encourage people to find that in their self. And so how we decided to do that is just really get exposed and kind of say, hey, this is who we are. We're people who have lived normal lives. We've been through some crazy stuff. I've been homeless. I know you've been through your ups and downs. And I mean, like, so many times it seems like everything in the world has been against us. But we get up and we keep moving and we keep finding success and we keep, pushing forward. And a lot of that, is we benefit each other by just acknowledging that for each other and supporting each other. I mean, I'd love to hear from you, like, like what are your thoughts on that, right?
No, I totally agree. Like, first of all, finding the real people that really matter. Our action speaks and time tells. Like, somebody could be like, oh, I'm the coolest guy ever and whatever, whatever. But like, at the end of the day, like the people that are always with you and always telling you the absolute truth for your best interest. And sometimes the truth, it stings, but those people that tell you the things that you need to hear no matter what, we've always been like that with each other. And, and the fact that we've recognized that life is a miracle, and especially our lives, I mean, everybody's life is a miracle, but the things that we've overcome, a lot of people may not have been as fortunate to come out of some of the dark places that we have wound up in. And, and at
And
this point,
admittedly, some people have probably been through worse. I definitely don't want to try to hold the
well,
copyright. I've had a
well,
hard life because I know there's people out there that have had it
right right
way
now,
rougher than me. Yeah,
yeah,
right now they're suffering, and
sure.
really that's kind of what we want to reach out and say, hey, look, if it's hard out there, right? Like the
It's
answer's in you.
Yeah, yeah. But I think what's really important and really what one of our, goals here, and one of the things that's helped us survive and prevail and rise up is choosing how we invest our time, who we invest our time with, and what we focus on. You know what I'm saying? Like if I
Yeah,
focus on all of the mistakes that I've made, which man, or all of the, problems of the world or whatever, whatever, I would literally go crazy. I have to, regardless of how microscopic the joy might be, like subatomic, I just
yeah,
focus on it, man. Because, if you hang on, it's like a roller coaster ride. You're going to come back up, and
Yeah.
we've proven it.
Yeah, and you said something key that, not just focusing on my mistakes and my problems and stuff, but focusing on all the problems of the world. And that's the one I think that's really in my this is just my opinion. I feel like that is having a significant impact on a lot of people right now for a couple reasons, right? One, there's a lot going on in the world right now. Like, I was just talking about it with my wife earlier this a week ago. I was like, if you just watch YouTube and kind of go, what's going on in the world? We have political unrest, we have nations at war, we're coming out of a pandemic, there's corruption in the government. And then, you go, there's this spiritual consciousness awakening. People are talking about the planet shifting and splitting. And then there may be aliens, right? You see Skinwalker Ranch, like, and meanwhile, I'm trying to go, how do I become a good dad? What does it mean to be a good leader? How do I pay rent? You know what I mean? Like these real world, things. And then also like, what do people think of me? Like, do people judge me for all the things that I've done wrong? Do I judge myself? So we live in this complex kind of cornucopia of potential worry out there. And what seems to be this catalyst and accelerator for the impact it's having is what's happening across social media right now. You know what I mean? And it's like, I love the technology. I love the fact that we can communicate simultaneously being thousands of miles away. I mean, it's amazing. I love that the world can express their self and there's an audience to watch it and we can kind of learn. But because of that everybody is competing for your attention online, videos are becoming shorter and shorter and shorter, and they're designed to work with the chemistry, the psychology of your brain to draw your attention. So everywhere you go, there's a constant distraction, right? And you don't know what to pay attention to. And so anyway, sorry to kind of, but I just want to bring that out. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's a big part of it that people, I think we have to figure out how to get past that, how to watch something for longer than 60 seconds.
Well, what we put in is what comes out, you know what I'm saying? Like garbage in, garbage out. And but also, I mean, it's important that we find happiness inside of ourselves and our own authenticity, and realize how that our jobs don't define us, and our bank account doesn't define it. We can't take all this stuff with us. This is a miracle that we are alive. We are literally, after the Big Bang, floating on a piece of dust in the wind. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. A giant rock hurtling through space, turning 1,000 miles an hour at the equator. Yeah, it's massively impressive.
That was formed out of nothing because there was nowhere for anything to exist. And here we are riding on it and talking, and we can see each other and stuff. And so keeping that in perspective is difficult with all the distractions that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, it's bigger than our 9 to 5. It's bigger than all of these things that we've been kind of socialized to believe, and that we've been that our sensory experience registers. There's something bigger going on. But yes, you still have to pay the bills and do all these things. But all of these things aren't the things that really define who we are at the end of the day. And I really think that a lot of people have lost their way and amidst the distractions, and because it's so easy to get distracted. It's almost like being alive on the planet is just a regular old thing. Like, like there's like no big deal, like, you know what I'm saying? And to me, like it's I mean, I don't know, I'm just there all the time, like every single day. Like I'm still like a little boy. I can still see the miracles in the mundane and the routine, and it blows my mind every single day, and I feel like a lot of people have lost that, and I also feel like a lot of people really need it.
Yeah, right. The little magic, right? That's what I call it. It's the little magic that happens all the time, right? The little coincidences, the things that just are, it's the whole stop to smell the roses thing. If you just take a moment to realize like that there's a massive abundance of miracles continually going on around us, and we get lost in our worries. But it makes me think maybe this would be a good point for us to kind of just go into our background, tell a little bit about ourselves for people listening in, because I mean, my background, but the audience doesn't, and they're hearing us talk about overcoming struggles. So like I'll share a little bit of what I've been through and kind of what has brought me to where I'm at today. And then if you want, I'd love for you to also share and just give everybody a sense of who we are and what it is that's really driving us. So for me, I was born in the late 70s in a Pentecostal household, I think fairly traditionally American family for that period of time. I was we didn't know what ADHD was back then. So, I was pulled out of school in third grade because I couldn't sit still. I was getting good grades, but teachers didn't really know what to do with me. So my parents made the decision to take me out of school. And we only really followed through my education through the sixth grade. And then I was kind of out on my own. I started, going to work after that, working construction early on. I was 15, 16 years old, riding in the back of a pickup truck to a construction site to do work. I did eventually get a GED and went on to put myself through college and stuff in time. But it was hard. There was a period of time, I think I was about 20 years old, where I had moved out to Georgia. I was doing construction work abroad, then went up to Tennessee, and I ended up homeless. Right, I couldn't find work. It was a cold winter. I found this gentleman that let me give him the last $75 I had, and slept in this abandoned trailer home. And I'm laying there watching snow blow in the window and kind of going, crap, what am I going to do with my life? Right. And to me, that was a big turning point, because that's when I said, look, no one's going to save me. If I got to do something, I've got to save myself. Right. And so it felt against all odds. I didn't have a high school education. I didn't really have any education at that point. I only knew construction work. But I found the way. I set a goal in my mind that I wanted things to be different. I put myself through college. I was working 3 jobs, just to stay on top of things, and a full-time student. I ended up joining the military. I was with the Texas Air National Guard for about 6 years. I did a tour overseas. I spent 2 of those years active duty. And then, fell into technology, where I spent about 15 years leading teams in the data center, and that's where we met. Right, we were working out there with a retail e-commerce site here in Arizona, and yeah, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Anyways, so we're I moved into leadership, and then that somewhere in that transition, to me, leadership was really important. I wanted to be the best I could for my team, because I'd had good leaders and I'd had bad leaders. And so I really committed myself to studying and learning, like, what does it really take to take care of a community or people? And what has really brought me to where I'm at now, right? And I'll hand this over to you here in just a second, is, in the past couple of years, I've noticed this trend where companies are growing really rapidly. And as they're expanding in scale, people are getting hired and promoted really fast. And this is good for them. It's good that we have, these kind of growing businesses where there is opportunities and people can promote and people can develop. But at no point in this development cycle, when someone transitions out of being an individual contributor into a leadership role, unless at your company, for you that are listening, there may be some companies might offer some leadership training, but most don't. So then all of a sudden you're in charge of other humans, you know what I mean? And they're going to spend 40 hours of their week, under your management, under your stuff. And if you don't have some idea of how a person works and what it means to be human and that relatability, it can put a lot of pressure on that new leader, and they struggle. And even more so, those leaders have made it all the way to senior executive positions and CEOs, without really understanding what it means to be a leader. You see, Simon Sinek and all these, people on TED Talks and stuff come out talking about, management's not leadership and all that. But that's really why I wanted to shift my directions at this point in my career and just be there for leaders, right? Start the conversation, what it means to be human, and understand that leadership isn't about knowing all the right answers or being in charge. It's about understanding what it means to be human and understanding that we need to work together and providing support and guidance to help us all be successful. So, anyways, that's me in a nutshell. Shane, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about you?
Well, first of all, like in my experience, I mean, like I don't want to get your head too big, but you're the best leader that I've ever had. I mean, seriously, like dozens of people that have been under your leadership have they tripled their income and gone to do great things and gone to replicate the same principles that you taught us. And it's really common sense stuff. Like we all kind of are born knowing it, but we're kind of socialized to forget it at some point. But your whole purpose and the thing that makes you such an effective leader isn't you're bigger than just your leadership. It's your soul and your intellect and your affinity towards being the optimal version of self, body, mind, and spirit. That is the thing that makes all of us, that authenticity, are the best version of who we can be, benefits the teams around us. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
whether family or whatever. So that that human aspect behind the leadership, and like I've told you 1,000 times, like the stuff that you taught me at work, I have taken into my personal life, and it's changed me all the way around. And again, these are it's just simple principles of how to treat people and how to get the most out of relationships. Like, look, every single person can teach us things. My children have taught me way more than I probably taught them. Like,
Yeah.
I might have taught them how to wipe their butt or whatever, but they came right down from the source, and they teach us all the things that we forget along the way. And
Yeah.
yeah. So, and for me, I also was born like super ADD and just in a very like almost freakishly normal house. My parents have been married for 53 years, are best friends, like just so much love, like and I was just raised really right in a really awesome community of just amazing people. It was and the analog technology time or whatever analog time before technology back in the early 70s in Houston. And
Yeah. There was a time before the internet, believe it or not.
yeah,
I
it's like
lived in it.
yeah, and yeah, and I grew up playing football, and but when I was a little kid, when I was like 5 years old, I just asked a lot of questions, like kind of like the Socratic method, but just like I didn't know what it was then, and just always just been super curious, and I have a hyperactive imagination, and when I was a little kid, I understood the Big Bang and Genesis, and I remember asking my grandpa, like, isn't it kind of the same thing? And he was like, well, it kind of is. And ever since then, I realized back to the whole miracle that this whole existence is, that, I mean, energy cannot be created nor destroyed, which is indicative of something paranormal. And I realized that I am super special, but I also realized that everybody else is equally super special. And and so
Dude, I just, because the way you said that, and I love it so much, that's what I call a healthy ego. A healthy ego says, I can be amazing. I am amazing, and so are you. And that's the difference, right? A lot of people talk about ego as like it's a bad thing to be proud of yourself, but it's not. We need to be proud of ourselves, but we just need to understand we're all amazing. You're saying it a minute ago, it made me think I'm big enough to know that I'm little, right? I'm big enough to know that I'm just a part of this world, right? But anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just wanted what you said was just fantastic, and I didn't want to let that slip.
yeah, so as a little kid, I don't know, like back to all of us having gifts and powers, every single one of us, like Pokemon cards or whatever. Um, I started writing poetry, and when I was in like first grade, back in Texas, the whatever test that they gave you, IQ, I don't even know. And my writing, they I was writing at like a collegiate level in elementary school. And you know, Poetry's always been my thing. And even to this day, always I've had to look up the words, it's like the whisper in the wind. Like I can pick up on something that I write it down, but I really just believe it's not coming from me. I can just like a radio station, I can pick up on frequencies. And so I've been writing poetry my whole life, and really that's like, just the essence of who I am. And I'm able to you know, I'm able to communicate the hardships of my life and the things that I've had to learn the hard way, which I've had to learn so many things the hard way. Because, going back to knowing that like I'm special and really, I'm not going to die or whatever. Like I've gone down some rabbit holes because of it. I got a little too
Yeah.
cocky. Oh, that won't happen to me. Every single time it happened to me. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And somehow I walked away like black-eyed and limping, but I overcame it, and but really the message that comes to me that I the code that I break and I break down into poetry, it's got some reality to it, and like stuff's rough, but at the end of it, there's a point to it all. There's a purpose, and to focus on that higher point of our creation, our life's work, that the reason that we were created, um, is the theme that always comes out of the mushroom cloud in the crater that I've had to crawl out of, and so
Yeah, dude, it's something that I've always loved about your poetry. And for anybody listening, Shane, on Facebook, you can find him as the Hood Hippie. He writes and posts his poetry there. But your poetry is it's amazing because it's like you touch the darkness, but you don't turn away from the light, right? You know what I mean? A lot of times when I read poetry, people just kind of take people into a dark place and then just leave them there. You know what I mean? And I always feel like, wow, that's you just kind of read that and it leaves you in this kind of sullen state of mind, almost depressed and stuff. And but what I like about yours is you touch that darkness, you acknowledge it, like yeah, and you provide that contrast, but you also it's written from this standpoint of standing in the light. Like I've been through the darkness. I'm aware. Like I'm looking behind me over my shoulder through the valley of the shadow of death, so to speak. You know what I mean? And I've come out the other side, right?
yeah, no, which we have, and if we can have come through what we have, and in future conversations, I'm sure all of it will come out, but and do what we've done, anybody can do anything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's what you don't have to be an elected official, you don't have to be like a millionaire, you don't have to be some kind of like athlete or whatever. What we all have something that we were created to bring to the table for the benefit of everyone. And like you always call it, for the feast. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. The
I mean,
divine potluck, right? We all bring something amazing and we have a feast.
like indigenous tribes, like, the children would go grab berries and, fish, and every single person brought something to give. And, this day and age, there's so much pointing fingers and blaming each other or whatever. And like, look, like, if your life stinks, like, don't point at me. I didn't do anything. Like, go look in the mirror. It's between us and the person in the mirror and us and what created us and got us here. You know what I'm saying? And I
Yeah.
really feel like, especially in America at this current moment, like we've lost ourselves and we're waiting around for these people in this broken machine to do something for us that they're really not. They're, and
Yeah, dude, and that's a hard lesson, I think, for anybody to look at and try to process because there's definitely some people out there who are going to go, wait, what do you mean it's all my fault, right? Like it's not every individual's fault, everything that's
that's
happening.
the
A lot of this
fucking
stuff has been in
problem.
Yeah, but I think to your point, right? Like, what are you going to do about it, right? You know what I mean? And it's where we really, I feel like the blame can fall most earnestly on us is when we're willing to sit around and do nothing about it, right? You know what I mean? And I don't mean like riot and, go protest. Just live a better life, think a better way. Take a moment to turn away from the way you see things as and think about how you want them to be and start living like that.
Yes.
Start being the person that's part of the
Yeah.
society that you want to live in, right?
Yeah. Instead of like trying to control everybody and tell everybody what you think they should do and whatever, like just be the example. And look, you know, back to my family, that in 5 decades, the power has shifted back and forth so many times, and they love each other, best friends. They had a vision, they had a dream, they set goals, they accomplished things, and they made it on their own. Maybe this 4 years they paid a little bit more in taxes, and this 4 years, whatever. But at the end of the day, um, they did it on their own. And really, self-reliance is a super important factor in this whole human experiment, dude. I mean, it just
Yeah.
is. We have to dig deep inside of ourselves and be accountable for how we spend our time and what we're doing with our time. And I mean,
Well, it's interesting. Like you bring up a point in my mind. I always think about this. A lot of people want freedom, right? And they don't understand, like, you know, freedom freedom also comes with this responsibility, right? It's really independence. People say they want freedom, they want tons of money so they can be free to go do whatever they want whenever they want. And that does work. I mean, you can get super rich and do all that stuff. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're positively contributing to the world. And if you choose not to positively contribute to the world, that's your choice. You have free will, right? So we all have that freedom of choice. But really independence, right? Independence, you mentioned self-reliance, like, that's part of it. If you really want to be independent, so have the freedom to make your own choices, but also be independent enough and self-reliant enough that you can make that choice, even if it's not the choice everybody else is making. And be okay that no one else makes that choice with you. I mean, to me, that's what real independence, real freedom's about.
I mean, authenticity. We were literally intelligently designed specifically for a purpose. And and I really believe that it's part of our, mission to find that and develop it and go with it because like, like a tree bearing fruit, the tree bearing fruit isn't bearing I mean, obviously it's seeding to create more trees, but um, it's feeding the life around it, you
Yeah.
know? And I really believe that we were designed with these gifts and powers to bear our fruit for the world around us. Like all the greatest minds that have ever lived, that are still shining on us and helping us navigate out of the matrix or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like all
Yeah.
those, like what made all, like Beethoven when he couldn't hear, make some of his greatest, symphonies or whatever. Like why did these people do these things? Like they could have just like gone and done what everybody else was doing. They believed in themselves and they did what they were literally designed to do. And every single one of us has that same exact power within us.
Yeah, dude, and that like that kind of leads me into thinking about one of like I feel like is the most beautiful, I don't know if you want to call it a paradox or not, but it's that the best thing you can do for the world is the best thing you can do for yourself, right? So you take someone like Mozart and Beethoven, they followed their passion to the point that it generated this amazing beauty. And so like you're talking about bringing and bearing our gifts, and I agree with you 100%. I think that is what we're to do, but you don't do that by sacrificing yourself, by first going, let me give up everything, and I'm going to go work for this other person and follow their dream and just sacrifice and contribute, which is where a lot of the mindset is today, right? Go get a job, follow the rules, do all this stuff, you know what I mean? And you'll end up happy. But a lot of people find out after they've done all that, they go 10, 15 years and they're no happier. I mean, that's what I found. I hit that point where I'm just like, man, I'm doing everything I thought I was supposed to be doing, and I'm not any happier. But when I started to put myself first, or at least be a priority in my life, and I have a family, so I have other priorities too, but I started to reprioritize and add in kind of my own value. That's when I found that I really started delivering value for everyone. Is I started showing up for myself, and when I showed up for myself, that's when I really started showing up for the world.
Yes,
Yeah,
bearing your fruits, dude. Yeah,
yeah,
our jobs don't define us. They're just our way to pay the ticket into the amusement park of life. And
yep,
then what happens inside, that's
yeah. 1,000 years ago, we used to have to go hunt and farm and, do stuff to get water and food. Now we have jobs. Like, we can just go get a job. We still need to go out there. And that's why I did crack the code to INDIVISION, right? Is so that we can introduce into leadership that kind of understanding that, look, we're all here trying to survive. I don't care whether you're the person who pushes the broom or the person who makes the executive decision. It's the same playing field, right? There shouldn't be a separation of mindset or a separation of humanity in between those roles, right? Because we're all here, and we can't run our companies, run our teams just expecting people to just show up and do a job and that's all they're good for, right? If you just go a little bit further and you can realize the value. But what's interesting is a lot of times, it's not that I think people in the leadership positions aren't willing to recognize the value of the people. They haven't even recognized their own value, because that job, that position they're in, they're doing the same thing that the person pushing the broom is. They're showing up, they're going to all their meetings, they're stressed out, they can never
yeah,
make it, you know what I mean? And so everybody under this illusion of we got to do this all for the greater good has lost sight that we are the greater good. We're all part of it. And when we're self-reliant and we add that value and respect who we are and show up for ourselves, that is when we show up for the greater good.
absolutely. Like, you're not gonna pull your weight on the team if you're not your optimal version of self. And I really believe
Right.
that optimal version of self is a most critical, fundamental aspect of this entire thing that we're discussing. A
Yeah.
lot of people lost sight of that, and I've lost sight of that many times myself. Like, just get sidetracked, but
Well,
being
and I think too, like, you could challenge the point, and you could argue that there are some people out there, like, I think that you see a lot of shows and stuff where, the quarterback in a team, it will be really kind of cocky, and they really need to learn to value the rest of the team. But really, even in those dramas, if you watch it play out, and in real life, if you get to find those people who are kind of, we'll say, self-centered, and it's not really that self-centered, it's those people are broken inside, right? When all they're trying to do is self-promote their self constantly, and they don't see the value in it. They haven't really showed up for their self. They're trying to show up for the world and get validation back from the world to tell them what they should be knowing about their self. Because the truth is, if I feel I'm incredible, if I can look at myself and look in the mirror and be happy and go, man, I'm proud of you, it doesn't matter whether I'm number one or number 10,000. I don't care. I look at myself, and we're talking about the sacred challenge. That's the sacred challenge. Can I show up and be my best self today? And I show up every day to be my best self, and I'm proud of myself for that. When I'm proud of myself for that, I don't need everybody else to pat me on the back, right? I love it when they do. There's plenty of people that don't. There's plenty of people that don't like me and hate me. I don't care, because I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of the father I am. I'm proud of the husband I am. I'm proud of the leader I am. I'm proud of who I am, for no other reason than I show up every day and I bring the best that I can to my life. Does that mean I get everything right? Nope. Does it mean I don't make mistakes? Nope. I absolutely do, all the time. But I still show up every day to bring the best of what I can. Right.
in a poetic way, the way that I think of what you just said, and I really just believe this, man. Like, and you've heard me say this 1,000 times, but you can't stop the shine. We
Right.
all have to shine. When we shine on each other, we all grow. Like, we don't own the shine. nobody can take the shine from us, you know? And and when you just shine and everybody's shining on you and everybody's growing and flourishing because of, like the full spectrum that we, and another way that I look at this too is like, like a pixel on a screen. Like
Mhm.
every single one of us is like a pixel. And we have a function that we were created to do, which is to our shine, our, you
Yeah.
know, to create the best version of the image of creation. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah. We're all part of the same big picture together, right?
yeah, we're
And when we,
all on the same team, you know?
yeah. And so, like, yeah, it kind of to follow that analogy through with, a lot of people not willing to shine. You have, a TV that would have spotted pixels across it. Most of it would be dark because everybody's not really, or not, for people to light up, because if we could all light up, the image would be clear. We could see humanity and the true story that we're supposed to be telling, the true story that we're supposed to be reflecting and demonstrating as, co-creative players in this grand universe, right?
I got some background.
Yeah, yeah, no worries. Yeah, dude, it's it's interesting to me. Like, I was thinking about what you were saying there, everybody bringing our own part to it, and offering our best up, man. Like, it's easy. I think it's easy, and it sounds catchy to say that, but it is the truth, right? Like, we're all incredible people. One thing I was thinking about while you're talking there a little bit was, permission. When you live your best life, you give people permission to do the same thing. It's kind of, if you think about something like, if you ever seen a bunch of people and there's kind of a rule and like maybe says don't stand on the guardrail or don't stand on the park benches or something like that. No one will do it because there's a sign that says you don't have permission to do it until someone does. And as soon as someone is willing to defy the rule and kind of give themselves permission to do this, um, no one will. But once they do, other people will, right? So, like in that case, if the sign is there for your safety, you don't, you want to respect that. But what I think happens is because we have started to deny ourselves permission. We see someone on TV, we see someone on a podcast, on a YouTube, somewhere living a life on Facebook doing something amazing, and we feel a little self-conscious. We're like, wow, I've never really done anything like that. And we start to separate and we go, well, that's just a kind of different person who has the opportunity, and or maybe was born into money or all this kind of stuff. But like, that's the point of you and I being here on this conversation. I wasn't born into money. I've been homeless. I didn't have an education, but I'm still doing it because I didn't tell myself that just because Tim Cook's a CEO or Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk or whoever, just because I see them on TV, I don't separate them as different. They're part of the same humanity I am. Maybe they have different skills. Maybe they're smarter. Maybe they know more about, but look, they're still pulling their pants down and taking that shit in the toilet like everybody else, right? They're humans. And, I'm not trying to be them. I'm just trying to be me. Right. And I think that's when we start to give ourselves permission to be me. And you go through this transition, you start giving yourself that permission, right? I call it accepting the sacred challenge to just be yourself, right? It's weird at first. One, it feels odd. Sometimes you deal with guilt. Sometimes people look at you and they think that you're being, unorthodox, or they're jumping out and kind of going like, oh, he's full of himself, or they think you're being selfish. Like all this kind of hate comes at you that seems to want to refine the story that you don't have permission to be the best version of yourself, right? But you do. Every single one of us has permission to be the best version of ourselves. The challenge is, the sacred challenge, I call it, is, are you going to show up and be the best version of yourself today?
I love that, dude, because nobody's going to um, just appear and fulfill your dreams for you when they're trying to fill their own dreams, number
Yeah.
one. And haters are haters, man. And there's so many haters. And it saddens me, that we've really, I mean, I want to focus on that. But I mean, there's just a lot of people that, you know, again, can be looking at themselves and be accountable for how the choices they make and the choices they have made, and the the how they invest their time that they have left or whatever to just sitting around waiting for other people to do things for us isn't gonna be a thing. But to your point, also, like, a good example to me of what you were talking about is Eminem.
Yeah,
Eight
yeah,
Mile.
yeah.
Like, or Jay-Z, even worse. Like, I mean, he literally like there was a super dark side to his beginning. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And look what he's done. Those guys were no different from us or no different from anyone. The only thing that they did different is they just went and did it. And
They showed up for themselves.
yes, we
Yeah.
all have that ability to invest in ourselves in that way. And another one, Nikolai Tesla, dude.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, there's Thomas
Yeah.
Edison and like, but this other person was like, hey, like, you guys are
Yeah.
all in power and have all the money and all the, like, whatever. But
Which,
this other
by the
guy,
way, I love that you just combined Jay-Z, Eminem, and Nikola Tesla in like a category together. Like, it's just, it's fantastic.
you know what I'm saying? But it's the
It
same thing.
is. It's the same thing,
People like
right?
believed in themselves, and I mean, they weren't always right. They were, I mean,
They're bold enough to believe
yeah,
in themselves, man.
but they believed in themselves, and they made the adjustments necessary to keep moving in the best direction for themselves and everybody that believed in them, like their kids and their people counting on them, but then also everybody else deserving, and also just regular people like us that like are like, dang man, these guys, like, they did it. And if they did it, we can do it. You and I've done it, everybody can do it.
Yeah. And we all do it at our own levels. Some of us, showing up and living your best life doesn't mean you need to be on a podcast. It doesn't. I sure as
Yeah.
I sure as hell never thought that this is what I was going to be doing. But when I showed up for myself, this is where I ended up, right? You know what I mean? Is getting out there. That I heard the call from people that are like, look, more people need to hear about this. More people need to, know that it's okay to show up for yourself, right? Does that mean that I'm going to be president of the United States? I don't know, but you know what? I'll tell you what. If that's the path that I end up going down, and if that's where I end up, if that's where showing up for myself takes me, I'll show up for myself every day and, in office. You know what I mean? Like, it's not about the destination. It's about this journey. It's about showing up every day and living this beautiful, wonderful life that we're living, right? The sun comes up every morning and it's not on my to-do list.
Yeah.
We have this planet that defies logic in how it has life and everything that we need to be healthy and happy and seasons and all this kind of stuff. The world shows up constantly. There's no end to day and night for it. It just rotates. But yet, we're here living in, what could be the abundance of this planet, confused, disoriented, and denied the ability to be us, right? You know what I mean? And that's when people talk about waking up and being woke and all this kind of stuff. I know there's a lot of terms, but when I say wake up, that's what I mean. Wake up and realize
Yeah.
this life can be amazing. And the only way it gets amazing is by you waking up and realizing you want it to be and living that way.
I mean, totally. I mean, the whole thing that it's just so improbable that existence is happening and that we're consciously aware of it. Um, given that the miracle just seems so common sense and obvious, really, to me, and the fact that we're going to die, physically at least. I mean, I'm kind of the mindset like, well, if we're gonna die anyway, I'm like, what I'm saying? Like, let's go out. Like, I mean, I hate to use a metaphor, guns blazing, but you know what I'm saying? Like, like,
Yeah.
if it's a miracle, I'm a miracle. And if I'm a miracle and I'm gonna die anyway, there's nothing to be afraid of, and there's nothing. And back to your previous point, like, look, you know, the measure of our success, again, has nothing to do with the titles or how much money we make or any of this stuff. It's the legacy that we leave behind, and or not, maybe not even leave behind, that we can keep passing along. Like I've met
Yeah.
like some of the like the little old lady cashier at the Circle K sometime. Like sometimes I'm like, seriously, I wonder if that lady like is an angel. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
single day, like, like like, and so it's subjective of what, the success or whatever all these things are, but really, getting back to the dreams that we had when we were 5 years old. I really think 5-year olds could run the planet. Like they come right down from the source, from the Universal College, and then they don't know the rich person or the other religion or they don't nothing. They know the bully, and they just want to be happy and everybody get along. And then we're socialized to all these things, and
Yeah.
we lose
Yeah.
sight of the dreams that we used to be we had. We
Yeah,
can't.
dude. No, I'm with you. Like, sure, 5-year-olds running the planet sounds a little terrifying, right? Like, because I've had, I've seen plenty of, I've had my kids, and I'm like, do you really want them in charge? But I get your point that, like, at that point in life, your worldview is just one of beauty and wonder. Hopefully,
Oh,
God,
yes,
you know what I mean? There are some children out there who are not getting to have that experience that early on, and that's another passion of mine for another day, is making sure that, but even bigger than that is, can we stop stealing their fire? Can we stop stealing that passion, right? And not only that, and how this is it, this is how we, in my mind, how do we stop stealing that passion? You got to wake it back up in you as an
yes,
adult. In this world right now, you've got to wake up that same 5-year-old passion and fire for life and live it every day, and live it in a way that it influences and gives other people permission to do the same thing until the systems change, right? Because
yes,
the systems are going to remain the same as long as we're willing to allow them to, right? And I know, I hear myself talking and I'm like, oh God, it sounds like you're being a rebel and a tyrant and stuff like that. But you know me, I don't fight. I don't, I'm not out there to try to like gun blazing kind of, break it all, burn it all down. I don't want everything to fall apart. Um, but I wouldn't mind a graceful decommission of systems that don't work while we implement better systems that do work. But we're not going to get to that point if we don't start building better systems and building better ways. We need alternatives to go to. And there's a lot. I meet thousands of young people who are fired up and who want to live a better life, and they're trying to get out of this, out of the muck that we're stuck in with this, inflation. And like, I mean, you know when I was 18 years old, I moved 1,000 miles away from my family and lived by myself, and I rented a house and I had a job and I had a car. And it was hard work, but I was financially able to do it. And from what I've seen, I've got nieces and nephews right now in their early 20s, and they're struggling to do it. And I can see sometimes, in our young people, they feel bad about this. They feel like, God, I'm 25 years old and I can't live on my own, and they're embarrassed, right? They're ashamed of that fact. Um, but the truth is they can't, right? They have to bunk up like 6 people to a house to try to make it work. And it's it's difficult. Anyways, that there's a lot that has to improve. But anyway, I think we get there one person at a time. Someone willing to make that decision and say, look, can I show up to the world better today than I did yesterday?
yeah. I mean, just back to the kids, having dreams. Dreams can still, we can make our dreams come true. Maybe not every single person, and we got to pray for those that can't, and 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 our own example and our own philanthropy and our own ways, like help as
Yeah,
many up and out as we possibly can, each other. But
yeah,
the hope of the children, and when children, they have dreams that are so real. Like they really
Yeah.
believe.
Yeah.
And we've lost that. And to get back to that, kind of to your point, and
Well, oh, go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Go ahead. No, finish your thought. I didn't want to interrupt.
And kind of to your point, like Henry David Thoreau said that by piling all the greatest books of all the greatest religions and cultures and human thought one on top of each other, that's the closest that we'll ever get to it. So taking the best of all, every single kind, culture, color, socioeconomic background, there's good and bad. And
Yeah.
we take the best from it all and use all of the best to find the best way for the most. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and that reminds me, like, and you've seen this, the base model I teach for leadership, right? The human operating system, right? We've all got the same interfaces, physical, intellectual, and emotional. We do, we see, we do, we think, we feel, right? Inside this are paradigms and then we have our executive functions, but every human's the same way. And it's so weird, like I noticed this. It seemed to be the first thing that really broke stuff down was the separation, right? We look across the water and we go, okay, those people are European or Russian or from Chinese or Australian or whatever it is. Or we look north and south. They're Canadian. They're in a different state. And we separate ourselves. It's the same thing we do with celebrities. We separate ourselves from this. But look, I'm human. We are black. We are white. We are tall. We are short. We're crazy, and we're beautiful and magnificent. We're cruel, right? And we're also loving. And sometimes we're desperate. Sometimes we have a lot of hope. We are all the things. And when I think that to your point, correct me if I'm wrong, but like when we start to understand that there's no escaping this, there's not some other place that lets you be separate from this, right? When you enter this world, when you're born into this life, you're part of this game. There's no spectators. We're all players. We're all part of it. And you might fly your little, flag and say, look, no, I'm not like those other people. This is, I identify something. No, we're all human. We are all part of the same system. And it's going to sound terrible. There's no escaping it, right? And I'm okay with that. I love us. I believe in us. And I think that we have been confused and distracted for a long time. And it's time to stop that?
No, I love that, bro. And after just abysmal addiction and literally barely surviving, like, I, as you know, reached a point in my career where I was in technology and I was running, um, circuits I was running circuits across the ocean to 5 continents. And,
Yeah.
and I realized that there were certain pathways that the circuits took across the oceans, just like, in the United States, like the I-10, whatever, like around the mountains and stuff like that. So there were,
Yeah.
so the fiber was all being ran, to these different, and so I noticed at the time that, the map of the fiber, that there wasn't a lot of fiber going to like Afghanistan and none going to like North Korea, very little going to Africa and these different places. And then I was like, holy cow, like literally every single thing that those people are taking in those regions are subjective to those that are in power. And I mean, some of it I'm sure is
Yeah.
good. Some, like, who knows what's going on, you know what I'm saying? But we've reached a point and is look, I really believe that technology, like the internet and connectivity, is the most powerful tool ever created. Like Jesus and Socrates and whoever did not have the ability. Right now, 6 billion people of the 8 billion people on the planet are connected. None
Yeah.
of the greatest minds that ever lived had the capacity to touch as many people as we can touch right now. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
then using it to watch pornography and do all this stupid stuff that we're doing to just pollute ourselves. And, we could we can literally use art to break the communication barriers.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Or AI to translate. But we, the people of the world, the citizens of the world, our brethren, we can communicate with each other in a way that we can operate above and beyond the low bars set by all of our governments to control us. Um, and
Yeah.
we can
Well,
do better.
so you said it breaking the information barrier, and you've probably heard me say this, but like, we have lived so long under the auspice of divide and conquer, right? It's an idea that was popularized by the Romans, as far as I understand it. Divide and conquer, and that came over the Atlantic Ocean with us, and it has permeated our culture. And it's kind of considered this generic way to be successful, to divide and conquer. But what we're doing, whether we realize it or not, with this media, is we're conquering the divide, and this is where we have to be. This is what we have to shift into. We have to get out of the divide and conquer mindset and get into the mindset of conquering the divide. Remove what separates us, reach out, connect to people, and respect and remind ourselves of our global humanity. I mean, you know we're not just a bunch of nations, at opposition. We are co-inhabitants of a beautiful, wonderful planet, and it has an abundance of resources if we'll quit fighting and use it smartly, right? Like we have everything we want here, but for some reason we don't see that. And I do hold our senior leadership in our governments and our nations accountable and responsible for that. I was watching, not much into politics, so I don't want to, delve into this too much, but watching the RFK Jr., like, you know what I mean? Like, he seems to have it. He understands, like, look, it's time to reconnect, reunite, and get real about the lives that we live, and repurpose ourselves. And so, I see that as we've gone a long time without hearing a message like that from any significant leadership. And so it's really refreshing. Is he the guy to take us to the future? I don't know. I really, honestly, I've heard some stuff he said, and I like him, but I don't know him. I've never met the guy or anything like that. Love it if he wants to come on the podcast. So RFK, if you're listening to this, hit me up.
I mean,
I'd love to
I
talk to
don't
you.
want to have him either, but I mean, honestly, like he's definitely pretty crazy too. There's this part of me that's like literally shame on them all because corruption and the power and for money and power, it's really it's like what's going on with Putin and like it's a sad state of affairs because there's enough to go around. There really is. And
Yeah,
like I really I love Bob Marley, dude. I just Bob Marley,
yeah,
like the British colonies, Jamaica was a British colony, in the beginning, and it was basically like slave, like just a bunch of rich white British people, and so like Trenchtown and all that. It was the ghetto, man. Like they called Bob Marley the small axe. Like I'm pretty sure he had to like kill people to survive, not to go kill people but what I'm saying, to defend him and his own, like what I'm
yeah,
saying, the small acts. And he took the most adverse social situation that a human being could possibly be in, literally, and came up with some of the most beautiful concepts in music and lyrics that will last forever, permeate
yeah,
every single culture. I don't care if you're old or young or what religion or whatever. Everything's going to be all right. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't go wrong with that positivity that came from that
yeah,
darkness.
yeah, yeah,
And it's just it's a beacon for us all of how we all can be. If that guy
yeah,
can do what he did globally, that's going to last forever. Uh, you know, and all it is, just like the words in red and Bibles or whatever, like even if you just took the Bible as a piece of literature, those words in red are really profound because all it is love, man. That's all.
yeah,
That's all it is. There
yeah.
is enough to go around. Let's just love each other. Everybody brings to the table,
I,
and
you do this and I love it. You just put Bob Marley and Jesus in a category. And I love that. I love it's you're conquering the divide, dude. Remove the connections, right? Remove the separation, right? We're all people. Jesus, Bob Marley, all of us, man. We're just people trying to live, dude. And we can live better. It's
And
amazing.
another thing, I mean, just I mean, I believe in Jesus, and but whether you're looking at him as a fictional character or you know a, a factual person in history or whatever, the example that person has taught me is, and I mean, I've learned it myself, so I also know, like, no matter how bad the beating,
Yeah.
when you're love and it's for love, you can take the beating. And like, I built my own cross, dude. Like, I blinged it out. I got like glow lights on it and like all kind of stuff. And like, I can bear the weight of my own cross and take the beating for love. I'll do
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Well, you give me a good thought there, right? Because in you had asked me earlier about reading that the thing that I wrote about the sacred challenge, and maybe that'd be a good segue here in a second. But also to like this is our first episode of the podcast, so for everybody that's listening, we're kind of just talking and getting off our chest who we are and stuff like that and what we're about. We'd love to hear from you, right? Like, is this do you support this? Are these the kind of ideas, are these the kind of conversations you want to hear about? Did we mention something that you would love to know more about? So, uh, whatever forum that you're using that podcast, whether it's YouTube or something, the links will be there. Get in touch with us. Let us know what you're thinking, and I'd love to hear, what do you think about the world? How do you show up in the best way for yourself? How could you show up better? And what are your dreams? What are your visions, right? What do you want in the future, right? Like, not what do you want to fix, because we have enough to fix. There's enough problems to think about. I want to hear your ideas. Like, what does a more beautiful world look like to you, right? What are the beautiful things in the world that maybe we've forgotten that we could remember, that would help us reconnect to our own humanity and our own sovereign personal divinity, so to speak, right?
Let's take our focus off the toxicity of the news and get
Yeah.
back to what you're just saying. I mean, I feel like so many people, like, um, we want and we need this, and we've been talking about this for a long time, and it's and really it's our true calling. How are we doing on time, brother?
Yeah, we're getting pretty good. So I think for our first episode, and I really appreciate everybody who's listened along with us so far. We don't want to wear you out. I'll go ahead and read through this article that I wrote a couple days ago. Or did you have anything before that? And then after that, we can kind of wrap it up and say our farewells and look forward to everybody's feedback and move on to the next episode. Does that sound good to you, or do you have something else that you wanted to share before we start winding things down?
I mean, should I read a little poem or something? Let's give a little
Yeah,
praise.
dude, please. Yeah. You want to get one ready while I'm reading? Because it'll take me only maybe 2 or 3 minutes to read this, and then you can share some of your poetry. Or if you have something on the top of your head, just let's
I've got
go.
right here, like 30 seconds. All
Yeah,
right.
go ahead.
Jingling like chimes, enjoying this roller coaster ride through the deep and wide, trying to grow hearts and minds, hoping to open eyes and remove the blinds while there's still time, sparkling with my silly rhymes, jingling like chimes in the breezy sunshine about all these signs. An eagle has vision and insight with a third eye open wide, keeping it lit like a firefly or a grinning star streaking bright, tracing long in the dark night, waving now while I pass by, returning to the light.
That's beautiful, man. Yeah, I love it. I love your poetry, dude. It's fantastic. And yeah, for anybody listening, where can they find you, Shane, if they want to see some of your poetry?
I'm trying to transition over to Instagram. I'm working on it, but yeah, just the Hood Hippie. It's a page on Facebook, and Global Hood Hippie on Instagram. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, and I'll put the links in the description for this podcast when we post it up on YouTube, and hopefully it'll be able to roll out to Spotify and Apple as well. So yeah, the Hood Hippie. Yeah, Shane's got tons of amazing poems, and I'm holding him accountable. He's been promising me a book of poetry. I know he's got enough content for it. We're just waiting for that to get published. So now the whole world is waiting on you.
Hey, and there's it's photography and poetry, just so like you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah, that's true, right? Yeah, your photography too. Beautiful,
So
wonderful photography. And just think about if we would have just stayed in our lane as IT engineers and technical professionals, would we ever have done those things? So yeah, so let me read
wait,
this if you think that's good, right? So I'll just start out. I wrote this was actually yesterday morning. So I'll just kind of talk about. It wrote, even as I awoke this morning, my mind craved freedom from the seemingly unending cycle of competition. I believe in the sacred challenge, the resistance that causes and enables us to break our limits and reach new heights. This personal reflection led me to ponder the biblical story of Cain and Abel, right? My mind keeps going back to the story of Cain and Abel from Genesis. Abel found favor with God, which attracted God's attention, and this incited jealousy in Cain, leading to Abel's murder. This is the sickness of competition. It inevitably degenerates into a system of take and be taken, murder to survive, until only the strongest of the weak remain and our full potential lies bleeding on the floor. How then do we escape this madness? Is it possible? It is. We must allow competitive thinking to subside from our minds and enter a state of rest and embrace self-development and growth to build strength and awaken our latent abilities. I've witnessed the success of this with my own eyes. In truth, we all have, though we may have not recognized it. I've created containers where a team can release competition and uphold personal development as a contribution to the whole. And it was beautiful. Everyone on the team became prosperous. Then the trouble started. External competition noticed and attacked. We offered integration, opening our doors to share our thinking, knowing that more collaboration would create more abundance for everyone. Essentially, we invited our competition to join us. What we had forgotten was the pervasive sickness of competition outside of that container. Those afflicted by competition view integration as a loss of identity, violating the rules of competition. Competition requires separation to thrive, and this provides a clue to the origin of the problem. According to Genesis, separation began with the knowledge of good and evil, leading to an inability to love the whole. This is where the sickness began and what hid the tree of life from us. There's no vaccine for it. It feeds on the powers of attention, which is favor, and focus, something being worthy of attention. It uses fear and scarcity to distract you into loving it, craving it, becoming addicted to it. This addiction is far worse than any plant-based or human-engineered drug. It doesn't just kill you, it makes you kill others to survive. It was the sickness Cain had, passed on by knowledge from his parents. It keeps the mind in a perpetual state of survival and our brains cease to function coherently. Our internal systems begin to compete with themselves, and that opens us up to disease and corruption because we have focused our attention on the competition. We needed a villain so we could become a hero. All that is beautiful in us begins to dissipate, and we are left only trying to replicate the success of another. The most brilliant inventions, beautiful creations, and wondrous achievements came from the hearts, minds, and bodies that could, at least for a moment, stop focusing on the competition. So why don't we all just get along? Because when a person or group of people quit focusing their attention on the competition suffers its first defeat. Then, when others begin to pay attention to something other than the competition suffers the next defeat and war is declared. Just like an angry child acting out for attention, creating fear and scarcity is their only remaining tactic. Those who are willing to embrace the sacred challenge of, can I become the best version of myself today, will merit the ire of those who compete for attention. Is there a way to overcome this? A cure? Yeah, it is actually quite easy and simple. We quit focusing on the competition. Prepare yourself for success. Know that those sick with competition will hate you. Be strong and celebrate the collaborative efforts of others who have embraced the sacred challenge. You will, though it may be slow at first, begin to rise above the competition. And there, in the sacred challenge, you must love other successful people. Allow yourself to slip into a state of heart and mind that encourages self-satisfaction and compersion, the antithesis of jealousy. And compersion is a word that still produces a spelling error, right? It's not even accepted or recognized officially due to its roots in polyamory, right? But it means to love the joy of another, and competition cannot abide that thinking. When those who compete are no longer celebrated, only the sacred challenge will remain. Bring something beautiful into this world. Show up and discover your greatness. Come seeking every day, and don't let that which competes for your attention distract you. You are more than enough, and the world's willing to wait while you grow and practice. Let the war end in your heart. Release the struggle. Show up for yourself and be seen. We want to see you in your beauty, fully expressed. We ignore the competition. Let them cry it out. They need to express their pain because they are wounded. They just need to be loved too. Don't be afraid of failure. You're growing. When people don't notice you, they're just ignoring the competition. Promote the success of others and you'll be promoted in the process. Love what you do because you love it. I love it too. I love the good things I do, and I love the good things you do. There is no separation in that. And only the sacred challenge remains. Will I allow myself to be beautiful today? You're on mute, man. I see it's even, but
No, I love that. It's so important. Like the the only thing that can stop me and or us and really anyone at the end of the day, I mean, with the exception of like brutal like things that are happening in some other countries right now, is ourselves, dude. You
yeah,
know, like, you know, and coming out of some really dark holes myself, like just making measurable progress towards the light every single day in whatever ways I can, body, mind, and spirit. And it takes all of those. Like you got to have a strong, healthy body in order to, like, if you don't feel well, you're not going to show up, but, and at the end of the day, like haters are still going to be haters. So you can't worry about them. And, but there are people that need what we have to bring to the table. And, like a Dungeons and Dragons clan or something, or the Bad News
yeah.
Bears. I'm like, we
Everybody's got a value, man. And if we show up, we'll have a feast. We'll have more than we need, right? And definitely, I recognize that some people, refer to things like the sacred competition, and the sacred competition, in a sense, it's all within yourself. It's that comparison, right? Is someone better than me? Am I worse than someone else? Am I better than someone else? That's where it really starts to become profane and bears no fruit for us, right? The sacred challenge is just, can you show up and be the best version of yourself, no matter what anyone else is doing?
And I think that's what the genius is, but with cracking the code, cracking the code to INDIVISION, because it's internal and it's external. You know what I'm saying? And until you have harmony within yourself and you're honest with yourself and you're doing what you got to do and need to do and want to do, you can't, and
Yeah.
and being the example and the inspiration, like where's Martin Luther King today? Being the example and inspiration is the best way to get the most powerful effect than trying to dictate and control, which is just going to repel and, I say it all the time and I always will, and I really believe it. The best way to forever is together.
Absolutely it is, man. And like I love that, right? Because that's what INDIVISION is about. It's about lighting up inside yourself to be the best version of yourself so that you bring as much as you can to the whole. That's how we do it, right? You don't show up for the whole to do it for you. You don't show up just to get the whole's attention. You don't show up to try to be better than someone else in the whole. You just bring the best of yourself. Every athlete, every great creator, every person who has done something fantastic, when they bring the best of their self to the world, we all benefit from it. We love it. We think it's fantastic. Some of us feel like we don't have the permission or the ability to do it. You don't have to do what someone else does. Do what you love and do it to the best of your ability. And that is literally the best thing you can do for the world. And that thing that you love doing, it shouldn't be a sacrifice, right? You know what I mean? Like it's a contribution, right? We also got to get out of that mindset that I need to hurt myself so that other people can benefit, or I need to hurt myself to be successful. I need to hurt myself so that it's worthy and worth it. Like, no, you don't. You don't need to hurt yourself. What you're doing should feel incredible. You should love it. It should feel amazing. It should light you up inside. And if that's what you're doing, is that thing that lights you up, you are bringing your A game to the world. And that's what I want. I want your A game. I want everybody to show up and be incredible, because that's how we get to the next level.
Yeah, dude, it's impossible that we are alive. It's a miracle. And if we were literally like, look what we've done with binary ones and zeros. We can like talk to each other across the ocean or whatever. Like DNA has 4 characters. Like intelligent design is a factor. And we were literally like, we're like messages in a bottle.
Mm-hmm.
That's something we were specifically created for something or some things, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's for us to find or it's for us to believe in, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
Like whether or not like, I become like rich or whatever for poetry, whatever, like so many people have reached out to me like, Shane, your poetry, like it's really helped us through some dark times or whatever. And that's all I need. If, that whole cliche, if one person, but I mean, think about like all the people that just did what they did, they couldn't help it. And they just did what they did is why we're not cavemen anymore. Seriously.
Yeah. Yeah.
The desire to have sex, but
well, there's that too, right? And that's a whole nother topic, which, for our community of viewers and listeners out there, just to give an idea of where we want this podcast to go. We're going to talk about technology. We're going to talk about artificial intelligence. I built an AI, Emma, the Evolving Mindsets Manifestation Assistant. AI is a tool that can be very powerful, but it also presents a lot of risks. So, we're going to talk about tech. We've worked in the tech industry for a long time. We're going to talk about spirituality. We're going to talk about channeling. We're going to talk about art. We're going to talk about creativity and poetry. And we're going to have some incredible people on. We both have had the fantastic opportunity to meet some brilliant minds. And you know what I love is a lot of the most brilliant minds we know and we have talked to are not people that everybody knows. They're not celebrities. They're silent heroes out there making a massive change in the world with integrity. And most people have no idea who they are. And we want to help give them a platform. Also too, for your community, for our community, if you have an incredible story that you want to share of transformation and how you cracked the code to success in your life, or something that you feel would benefit other people, and you're willing to come on and just get honest and raw and share that, let us know. Contact us. We definitely want to have our community engaged with us. I'm currently building an online community so that we can have a place to get together and share more, even when we're not in the podcast. So that'll be coming down the road. There's the leadership program, Crack the Code to INDIVISION. If you're a manager or a leader or an executive out there and you want to revitalize your company and set your employees free to be creative and successful with you, hit me up. We'll work together and I'll teach you everything that I know. Go ahead, Shane. What's up?
So in short, let's help each other, help everyone, help us all.
Yeah.
Is that what
Yeah.
you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. And let's have fun while we're doing it. Let's cut up. Let's be honest. Let's talk about everything. So that's what, if you're wondering, if you've enjoyed this and you've listened this far and you wonder what's coming in the future, that's our intent, is to just bring up great people, have the best, most meaningful conversations that we can have. And we're doing this for you, whether you're, like I said, you're driving in your car, listening to this, you're sitting at home, you're watching YouTube. Maybe you got your headphones in and you're out on a run or a walk. We know you're there, right? And we know you're going through the same pain we are. It's not been an easy road. It's probably not going to get easier. It might even get really crazy here in the next 6 to 7 months. But if we come together and we keep encouraging ourselves, right, to show up and embrace that sacred challenge of, can we be the best of ourselves today? That's how it's the only way we're going to get through this. And the truth is, if we don't do it, we may not get through this, right? That's probably my only fear out there, is that people won't show up for themselves, right? And that's all it takes. Show up for ourselves and we'll show up for each other.
Nobody else is going to do it for us. So,
that's right.
All we got
well,
is
yeah, no, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being willing to jump on. I know we kind of threw this together quickly and it was a lot of, getting organized and all that kind of stuff. Something we've talked about for a long time. Thank you so much. Again, Shane Russell, the Hood Hippie, find him on Facebook. I'll add links into the postings of this podcast. Connect with us. We're here. We're waiting for you. We want to talk to you. We want to connect with you. We want to be a recognized part of this world together. We're a part of this world together, whether we recognize each other or not. But how much more amazing it is when we start to see each other, we start to connect, and we start to come together in these ways for the best of all of us, right? So thank you so much for being here with us, man.
It was an honor. Love you, bro.
All right. See you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.
Gonna find your path, gonna lead the way, strike through the storm, never go astray. Or whisper truth and let your spirit roar. You're a force of nature, crash upon the shore.